The drama surrounding Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark reached an all-time high during a recent WNBA game between the Indiana Fever and the Los Angeles Sparks, a moment that quickly escalated from a bizarre fan prank to a serious safety issue threatening the very integrity of the league. What initially seemed like a strange one-time stunt has now become an ongoing crisis that the WNBA can no longer ignore. The incident, which took place during the third installment of Flying Dildo Gate, was not just another bizarre fan joke. It was an attack on a professional athlete during a live game. The object, which had already made appearances in previous games, made its way from the stands and struck Sophie Cunningham mid-game. The green object, affectionately dubbed the Green Machine by some, was aimed directly at her, and it hit its target with unnerving precision. The moment was shocking not only to Cunningham but to everyone watching. The game, which was still ongoing, was interrupted as Cunningham struggled to comprehend what had just happened. "No way that thing actually hit me," she tweeted after the game, her disbelief palpable. She had issued a warning just days earlier: "Stop throwing these green objects on the court. You're going to hurt one of us." In a cruel twist of fate, her warning became a reality. The tweet that Cunningham sent out after the incident went viral almost immediately, amassing millions of views. Over 30 million people saw her initial tweet, while her follow-up comment quickly gained traction, climbing past 10 million views. What had started as an innocent request to fans had now exploded into a full-blown social media firestorm. But the response was not just online. On the court, the reaction from Caitlin Clark was a poignant moment in itself. Clark, who had been playing in the game at the time, was visibly stunned by what had just unfolded. Frozen in place, her wide-eyed look of shock and concern said everything. Clark didn't need to say a word. Her expression was a silent commentary on the situation. This was no longer funny, and it was no longer a joke. As the game continued, Cunningham's incident became the latest chapter in a disturbing pattern. The green object, which had made its appearance in multiple games already, had now become a regular and dangerous fixture at WNBA arenas. What was once a bizarre stunt had escalated into something much more sinister. The object, which had flown across the court during previous games, had now reached the point of actually injuring someone, and the risk of serious harm was no longer just a possibility, it was a reality. Sophie Cunningham, in her honest and unflinching way, had called it out before. She warned the public, "Stop throwing these green objects on the court. You're going to hurt one of us." Her warning was ignored, and tragically, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The reaction to the event was not just one of shock, but also of growing anger and frustration from fans, players, and those inside the WNBA. The situation was becoming untenable, and yet the league's response was slow and ineffective. The problem had escalated beyond a simple prank. It had turned into a full-blown campaign of disruption. Leaked audio recordings and online conversations revealed an unsettling truth. There was an organized effort behind these incidents. It wasn't just a random fan throwing an object for fun, it was a deliberate act of sabotage. One individual in a leaked recording was heard celebrating the act, referring to it as legendary. Another participant in the conversation described it as marketing at its finest, openly admitting that the goal was to disrupt the game and gain attention. The fans involved didn't care about the athletes on the court. They were focused solely on going viral, using the WNBA as a platform to get noticed, regardless of the consequences for the players. What had started as a strange but harmless stunt had now evolved into a targeted campaign of harassment. It wasn't about team rivalries anymore. It was about using professional athletes, specifically women athletes, as pawns in a game of social media clout. Fans began to target specific players and teams, and the league's response was nonchalant at best. This wasn't about having a little fun at the expense of a rival team. It was about actively endangering the athletes on the court. And worse, the league's failure to act swiftly and decisively was putting the players in harm's way. The incident was particularly concerning because the green object had already been thrown during previous games. It had narrowly missed a child in one instance, and in another, it had struck a player. But this time, it hit Sophie Cunningham in the middle of the game, making it all the more real for everyone involved. The object, meant to humiliate and disrupt, had crossed a line into dangerous territory. This wasn't just a harmless prank, this was assault. If the WNBA didn't take stronger action, the situation would only escalate. Caitlin Clark, who had witnessed the incident unfold, remained silent in the immediate aftermath, but her reaction spoke volumes. Her stunned, wide-eyed expression was a clear indicator that this was no longer something that could be dismissed as a joke. Fans, players, and critics alike began to ask, why was this being tolerated? If this had happened to a male athlete, would there have been a stronger, more immediate response? Why was it that, when these objects were thrown in other cities, they were laughed off as jokes, but when it happened in Indiana, it became a media spectacle? Through it all, Caitlin Clark continued to show the poise and leadership that has become her trademark. Despite the growing chaos around her, Clark remained calm and composed. She didn't need to make a public statement or demand attention. Her silent reaction spoke louder than any words ever could. In that moment, she reminded everyone why she has become the face of the league. Even in the face of adversity, she kept her focus, showing what true leadership looks like under pressure. Clark's professionalism continued to shine in the wake of the incident. When Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull posted lighthearted swimsuit photos on social media, Caitlin playfully chimed in, "Swimsuit brands, please." It was a small moment, but in the context of everything that had happened, it was a stark reminder of what the WNBA should stand for: fun, talent, and respect. It also highlighted the stark contrast between the chaos surrounding the league and the calm professionalism of Caitlin Clark. As the WNBA grows in viewership and global attention, it faces a pivotal moment. The league can no longer afford to ignore the growing safety concerns that threaten the integrity of the game. The time has come for stronger security, zero tolerance for disruptive behavior, and real respect for the women who pour their hearts and souls into the sport. If the league wants to continue to thrive, it must take action now to protect its athletes from becoming the targets of misguided fans looking to make a name for themselves. For players like Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and every woman who steps onto the court, it's time for the WNBA to put its foot down. If you stand with them, if you believe these athletes deserve protection and respect, leave a comment below. Let's make sure this kind of behavior is never tolerated again. The WNBA is on the rise, but it can only continue to grow if it holds itself to the highest standards of safety and professionalism. If you agree, hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, and let's work together to ensure that these athletes are given the respect they've earned.